She didn't scream, not once. They tied her hands behind her back with rough rope, pulled her like a sack, and called her things that weren't names. Wild one, thing, trade piece, just words, cold ones. She walked when they pulled, fell when they didn't wait. That was the rhythm, and she knew better than to fight. The men didn't talk to her. They talked about her, how much she'd go for, who might buy her. One of them said something about a cantina owner in Mesilla. The others laughed, like that was a good joke. It wasn't. She kept her head down, but her eyes, still sharp, still watching everything, every boot, every movement, not hoping for rescue, just memorizing. That's how you survive when no one else will. They passed by a ranch, quiet place, up on a little hill, with half a roof and a fence that barely stood. Looked like no one lived there. But smoke curled out the chimney. The oldest guy in the group pointed. "Old man Elijah's still breathing. Wonder if he needs company." They laughed. One of them raised a hand, calling out, "Hey, old man, got something for you." A figure stepped out onto the porch. Tall, broad shoulders, rifle in hand. Didn't smile, didn't wave, just stood there, watching. The man yelling gave up and spat on the ground. Guy's half dead anyway. They moved on, but not fast. That night, something went wrong with the horses. She saw it coming. Tension in their necks, ears twitching. One of the riders dropped his reins to light a cigar, and that was her moment. She ran, didn't matter where, just away, through dry brush, barefoot, hands tied, stumbling, but still moving. No shouting, no screaming, just breathing hard and not stopping. She didn't make it far, but far enough. She collapsed near a wooden post, one of the last fence markers before the ranch they passed earlier. That's where Elijah found her. He didn't ask her name, didn't ask where she came from. Just stood there for a long time, eyes half closed like he was thinking something over. Then he turned, walked into the house, and came back with a blanket, set it down next to her, left water, bread. That was it. No questions, no voice raised. She took the water first, carefully, like it might disappear. That night she slept inside the barn, not chained, not watched, just alone and safe. The next morning, Elijah was outside fixing a fence post when she walked up, slow. He didn't look at her, just pointed with his chin. "Cows need water, salt's in the shed." She hesitated, then went. She didn't speak. Neither did he. Not for days. But she worked, cleaned, fed the animals, fixed what she could. And when he noticed her hands shaking one morning, he left gloves on the porch, said nothing. She took them. That was how it worked between them. No questions, no pressure. Just small things, quiet things. And somehow, those were louder than words. One night, she found a comb on the table. Clean, simple, left there like it wasn't a big deal. She stared at it for a long time, then picked it up, went to her room, closed the door, sat on the edge of the bed and pulled it through her hair. Slow, careful, like she was remembering how to be a person again. Not a thing, a person. And she cried, quietly, because no one was watching. And she could. She woke up on the kitchen floor, wooden boards under her cheek, warm blanket still around her. No ropes, no yelling, just quiet. There was a bowl of beans on a towel next to her, half full, still warm. He wasn't in the room. She sat up, slow. Her shoulders ached, legs stiff. But she moved, ate a little, drank water from the tin cup, looked around. No locks, no cages, just space. Not freedom yet, but something close enough to confuse her. Outside, she found him by the shed, fixing something with a hammer and nails. He didn't glance over when she walked up. "Don't spook the mule," he said. "She kicks." That was it. No, "Good morning." No, "How you feelin'?" Just instructions. Basic, honest. She nodded. There was laundry nearby, dirty clothes piled in a bucket. She sat down next to it and started scrubbing. He didn't stop her, didn't offer to help, just kept hammering. And for some reason, that felt safe. Later that day, he showed her the barn. Tack rooms there, feeds on the left, muck the stalls every 2 days. She didn't say a word, just looked, listened, memorized. Back at the house, he pointed to a narrow hallway. Room's in the back. It's got a latch inside. Use it. She blinked, didn't move. You don't owe me anything, he added a little quieter. Not for food, not for space. Still, she didn't speak, but something in her chest shifted. Not a smile, not relief, just less tension. She stepped into the hallway, closed the door behind her, and for the first time in longer than she could remember, she locked it from the inside. By the third day, they had a rhythm, not perfect, not friendly, but clear. She did chores, fed the animals, cooked a little, kept her head down. He left tools where she could find them, left extra bread on the table, left her alone. One afternoon, he handed her a shovel and pointed to the coop. Fox took 2 hens last night. She fixed the fence, patched it with wire and wood. He watched from a distance, arms crossed, saying nothing, then just gave a quiet nod and walked away. That night she found a folded shirt on her bed. Clean, her size, still no words, but it meant something. A week passed, then 2. She said nothing. He didn't push, but small things changed. He started sitting across the table at dinner, not talking, just there. She'd glance up sometimes, just quick, and once, just once, he asked, "You eaten enough?" She nodded. That was it. Then the visitor came. Midday. Dusty boots. Big voice. One of the men who'd chained her, laughing before he even knocked. Elijah stepped out with a cloth in his hand, wiping grease off his fingers. "Well, well," the man grinned. "Didn't think you were the rescuing type." Elijah didn't smile. "She still around?" the man asked, leaning toward the door. "Heard she's looking better now. Bet she's more friendly." Elijah's jaw clenched. "She's not yours," he said. "Oh, come on," the man chuckled. "She ain't yours either." Elijah stepped down off the porch, didn't raise his voice, didn't reach for a weapon, just stared. "She stays here. You don't." The man didn't laugh this time. He backed off, muttered something, rode off slower than he came. Inside the house, she stood behind the door, frozen. But something in her face had changed. Not fear, something else. Like the air had shifted just a little. That night, Elijah made coffee and sat at the table longer than usual. She sat across from him, arms folded tight. But she didn't flinch when he looked at her. "Got a name?" She hesitated. Then, "Nali." He nodded. "Elijah." They didn't shake hands, didn't smile. But there was a pause. A quiet moment that filled the room like soft light through cracked windows. He took a sip of coffee. "Go with me into town tomorrow," he said. She didn't answer. Not out loud. But she didn't say no either. They left just after sunrise. Nali sat in the wagon, quiet, wrapped in a faded coat. Elijah didn't speak much either. Just held the reins, focused on the trail ahead. The old mule trotted steady. No rush. No words. They hadn't been to town together before. She didn't ask where they were going. He didn't say. But the road curved west, and that meant people, stores, eyes. When they got there, it was small. Just a few buildings, a feed store, one general market, a post, a bar with a crooked sign. Not much, but enough to turn heads. They stepped down. He nodded toward the store. "Need salt, matches, maybe a tin for the roof." She followed him inside. The shopkeeper glanced up, paused, then looked back down. Said nothing, but his silence was louder than shouting. Eyes flicked toward Nali, then back to Elijah. Elijah placed items on the counter, slow and firm. "That all?" the man asked, voice tight. Elijah nodded once. Nali stood still behind him. Her hands were folded under the coat, head low. She didn't meet anyone's eyes, but she felt them. Every step back to the wagon felt heavier than the one before. By the time they left town, her jaw was tight, her chest buzzing with something hot, not fear, shame. No, not hers. Theirs. On the road back, Elijah didn't look over. "You did fine," he said. She blinked, looked at him, then nodded once. Nothing else was said, but something small eased inside her chest. Back home, the barn was warm from the afternoon sun. She went straight to work, checking the water buckets, gathering dry feed. The routine helped. Simple things. No questions. Just doing. Later that evening, she was fixing a tear in one of the blankets when Elijah knocked on her door. Soft. Just once. Dinner. She followed him out. 2 bowls on the table. Stew. Warm bread. The air smelled better than it had in days. They ate in quiet. Halfway through the meal, he cleared his throat. "You don't have to hide here," he said. She paused. "This place is yours as much as it is mine." Nali didn't answer. Not right away. But she looked up. Direct. For the first time. Her voice came low. "Why are you like this?" Elijah leaned back in his chair. "Tired of pretending I'm not." She nodded. Didn't ask more. Didn't need to. They finished eating in silence. But the kind that holds understanding, not distance. The next morning, something was different. Nali woke up before dawn, went outside, fed the animals before he asked, washed the porch steps, even started boiling water for coffee. Elijah stepped out, surprised. She looked at him, hands on her hips. "You always drink it black?" He chuckled. "Just once." Then nodded. She poured 2 cups. They sat on the porch, sipped, watched the dust move across the dirt road like a soft breeze, and for a long stretch neither one said a word. But it didn't feel empty. It felt earned. 2 days later, Elijah found her sketching in the dirt near the coop. Just little shapes. Swirls. Circles. She didn't notice him watching. He didn't interrupt. Just walked back inside, came out minutes later with paper, charcoal, set it on the bench near her spot. Walked away. She looked over, hesitated, then picked it up. The drawing she made that night stayed on the table for a week. A small image of the barn, the fence, a bucket in the sun. He never said a word, but he never moved it either. A week later, word spread. Someone told the sheriff. Said the old man's got a wild one living with him. Said he was hiding her. Said, "It ain't right." The lawman rode out one afternoon. Dusty boots, clean badge, no smile. Knocked on the door. Elijah opened. "Nali here?" She stood behind the doorway. Didn't step out. "She's here," Elijah said. The sheriff shifted in his boots. "You know she ain't registered anywhere. No tribe claims her. No paperwork." "She's not a cow," Elijah replied. "Doesn't need a brand." The lawman sighed. "You're making things hard." Elijah nodded slowly. "Good." The man left. Said he'd be back. But he didn't say when. That night Nali didn't sleep. She sat at the edge of the bed, knees tucked up, staring at the small window. In the dark, Elijah's voice came through the wall. "If you want to leave, I won't stop you." She didn't answer, but in the morning, her boots were still by the door. A week passed, then 2. The sheriff didn't come back. No letters, no threats, just silence. But Nali felt it. Like a storm way out past the hills. You couldn't see it yet, but you could feel the pressure building. Elijah kept going like always. Feed the animals, fix the fence, stack the wood. Simple stuff. Nali, though, she was different now. She moved faster, said more, laughed, not loud, but real. She even started talking to the mule. "Still don't like me, huh?" she'd say, tossing feed. "Yeah, I get it." Elijah watched once, from the porch. He didn't smile, not really, but his eyes softened. He liked the sound of her voice. One afternoon, she found an old harmonica in a drawer. Dusty, half rusted. She picked it up, wiped it clean, and sat on the porch trying to make it sing. The first notes were awful, just squeaks, but she didn't stop. That night, Elijah handed her a cloth and said, "Try cleaning the reeds. Might help." She nodded, fixed it, tried again the next morning. It was better. And that evening, the sound coming off that porch wasn't music exactly, but it was close, and it was hers. The problem didn't come through the front gate. It came from the back trail. 3 riders, the same men who'd chained her, or what was left of their group, dust on their hats, long shadows behind them. Elijah spotted them first, didn't flinch, just watched. Nali saw their faces. She froze, then stepped back inside. He walked toward the edge of the barn, shotgun resting across his arm. Didn't raise it, didn't speak. The lead rider, the one who'd tied her ankles that day, grinned. "Didn't think you'd keep her this long." Elijah said nothing. We want her back. She's not yours, Elijah replied. The second man leaned on his saddle horn. You think this is about wanting? She's property. Nolly stood behind the screen door, fists clenched. Elijah took one step forward. No. The word came quiet, flat, but it hit hard. You boys ride out, he said, or I bury you here. The men didn't move right away. Then one of them spit, muttered something ugly, and pulled his reins. They left. Slow, but they left. That night, Nolly sat on the porch, knees up to her chest. The harmonica rested in her lap. She didn't play. Elijah brought out 2 cups of coffee, sat beside her. They didn't speak, just listened to the night sounds. The creak of wood, the wind through dry grass, the way quiet can feel safe. After a while, she said, I thought you'd give me up. He shook his head once. You're not something I own. She nodded. Still, most people would have traded me for peace. Elijah sipped his coffee. I already had peace. It was just empty. Nolly looked at him then. Really looked. You lost someone? He didn't answer right away. Then said, 2. She didn't ask more. Just placed the harmonica down and leaned back. They sat there till the moon got high, and the night didn't feel heavy anymore. Next morning she was up early, cooking. Elijah walked in and sniffed the air. You making flapjacks? She shrugged. Might be. He laughed, real this time. That sound stayed in the room long after breakfast ended. Later that day they worked on the roof together. Hot sun, sweaty hands. A tin panel slipped and cut her finger. She hissed, pulled back. Elijah reached for her hand. She let him. He wrapped it in a cloth, gentle, fast. Better? She nodded. It wasn't about the cut. It was about the way he looked at her. Not like something fragile, but like someone worth fixing. That night she left her door open a little. Just a crack. And she slept deeper than she had in years. Summer crept in slow. The days stretched longer. Dust settled in fine layers over everything. Even the silence between them felt warmer now. Softer. Familiar. Nolly took over the morning chores. Without being asked. Without thinking. She moved like she belonged. Like her steps had weight here now. Elijah noticed. He didn't say anything, but he fixed the hinge on her bedroom door. Sanded it smooth so it wouldn't creak anymore. She saw. Didn't say anything either. Some things didn't need words. One afternoon she found a stray dog behind the barn. Skin and bones. Limping. Half wild. Probably would have died by morning. She didn't bring it in right away. Just left food near the fence. Next day it was closer. Third day she let it sleep on a sack of hay inside the shed. When Elijah found it, he just stood there, arms crossed. That thing's more scar than fur, he muttered. Nolly shrugged. So was I. He didn't argue. By the end of the week, the dog followed her everywhere. Didn't bark, just stayed close. The rhythm of the house changed without either of them meaning to. Dinner felt less like necessity, more like choice. Some nights, they even talked. Not much, just little things. How long you been out here? She asked once. Elijah looked out the window. Long enough to forget why. She didn't push. Later that night, she left her door wide open. Not for him, for air, for trust, for whatever was starting to grow in that space between them. Trouble didn't come from town this time. It came from letters. A man on horseback rode up one morning with a sealed envelope. Said it came from Messia. Elijah read it once, folded it, didn't say a word. But Nolly saw his jaw tighten. Later, he told her. They want to inspect the land, might sell it off, saying I haven't paid the right taxes. She didn't understand all the details, but she understood the feeling. Being told you don't belong, even when you've done nothing wrong. She put a hand on his arm. We'll figure it out. It was the first time she said we. He noticed. The next few days he barely slept. She heard him up late, pacing, fixing things that didn't need fixing, pulling out old papers. She didn't ask. She brought coffee, cleaned tools, stayed close. On the fourth night, she found him sitting on the porch in the dark. No cup, no coat, just staring. She sat beside him, knees pulled up. You okay? He took a long time to answer. Back then, when I lost my family, I left town. Walked away from everyone. Let this place rot. Didn't care. She waited. I didn't save you because I'm good, he said. I did it because I couldn't stand watching something break again. Nolly looked down at her hands. You didn't fix me. He turned to her, eyes steady. I didn't have to. Silence again. But it didn't feel like avoidance. It felt like truth. The dog barked once, sharp, alert, footsteps, boots on dirt. Elijah stood. So did Nolly. A man stepped out from behind the tree line. Black coat, wide hat, not the sheriff, someone else. I'm with the office in Mesilla, he said. Need to talk. Elijah crossed his arms. Talk. There's claims this girl doesn't belong here. Nolly stayed behind him. Quiet. She's here, Elijah said. That's all that matters. The man looked her over, then glanced around. No records, no tribe papers, no marriage license, nothing tying her to this land. She's tied to me, Elijah said, and I ain't letting her go. The man frowned. You're making it worse. Good, Elijah said. And just like that, the man turned, walked off, didn't even knock dust off his coat. That night, neither of them slept much. They didn't talk either. But at some point, Nolly walked into the living room, carrying her blanket, sat on the floor near the fire. Elijah brought her a pillow. Didn't ask questions. She rested her head, eyes closed. Not because she had to, because she wanted to. Nolly stood at the edge of the porch, holding a chipped mug with both hands. The sun hadn't fully climbed yet. That soft gray in-between light made everything feel slower. Safer, maybe. The dog was curled up near the steps, still asleep, its chest rising slow. She glanced back inside. Elijah was sitting at the table, half awake, half not, just staring at the steam rising from his cup. He looked older in the mornings, quieter than usual, which said a lot. She didn't say anything, just stepped back in and sat across from him. He didn't flinch, didn't look up. Gonna be cold today, he said. Good, she replied. Tired of sweating. He grunted. Might have been a laugh. Might not. They were in the barn later, organizing sacks of feed. She lifted the heavier ones while Elijah sorted tools along the shelf. They didn't talk. Didn't need to. They moved around each other like they'd been doing it for years. When she reached for a bag up high, a small paper fell from the shelf. Folded. Yellowed from age. She picked it up. Didn't open it. Just held it. Elijah saw. Walked over. That's from my son, he said. She looked at him. The one who didn't make it? He nodded. Took the paper gently, stared at it for a long second, then placed it in the breast pocket of his shirt. He'd be your age now. Nolly stepped back. Let the silence settle. Then she said, maybe older. He nodded again, this time slower. That night she lit the lantern early. Not because she was afraid, just habit. She'd been doing that lately, lighting things before they were needed, setting plates out before anyone was hungry, folding blankets while they were still warm. It made her feel grounded, like the world couldn't shift too far if she stayed ahead of it. She sat on the porch with the dog at her feet. Elijah came out with 2 cups of coffee. No sugar, just black. He handed her one, then sat with a small groan. My knees hate me, she smiled. I told you to stretch. He shot her a look. I'm too old to stretch. That's what dying's for. They both laughed. Just once. Quick and quiet, but it felt real. Later that week, a storm rolled in. Not the loud kind, just steady rain. Relentless. No lightning, no thunder, just a heavy curtain falling from the sky. They stayed inside, read old books, played with the dog, made soup that didn't need much. Nolly found an old sewing kit in the drawer, repaired 2 of Elijah's shirts. Didn't ask, just did. He noticed. Of course he did. Didn't know you could sew. She shrugged. Didn't know I could survive either. But here we are. He looked at her for a long time. Didn't respond. But something changed in his face. Like something heavy let go, just a little. On the 3rd day of rain, they lost power to the small lamp near her bed. She didn't mind. Lit a candle instead. Sat by the window, watching the dark. She started humming. Soft. A tune she didn't recognize. Just came out of her. Elijah passed by the doorway, paused. That song have a name? She shook her head. No, but it feels like something I knew before. He nodded, then kept walking. A few days later, the sun came back. Everything smelled like wet earth and ash. They worked outside again. Nali moved slower, more thoughtful, like something was changing inside her. Even if she didn't say it out loud, she started sketching again. This time, not the barn or fence, but hands, just hands. His, hers, resting, holding tools, reaching for cups. She pinned them to the wall in the hallway. Elijah never said a word, but every time he passed he slowed down, just enough to notice. One evening, she found him sitting by the fire with a small box in his lap. He opened it slowly. Inside, a tiny pair of shoes, hand-stitched, never worn. She sat across from him, didn't ask whose they were, didn't need to. He held them for a moment, then set them down gently, like they still held weight, then said, almost too quiet to hear, "I buried her on a Tuesday." Nali didn't move, didn't cry. She just whispered, "I had a sister once. They took her first." He didn't ask who they were, didn't need to. They sat there until the fire went low, and the room felt warmer than it had all day. The days started blending, not in a bad way, just quiet, steady. Nali kept the porch swept, the gate latch oiled. She took care of the small things, the ones that fall apart first when people stop paying attention. She noticed those now. Elijah spent more time sitting. His cough hadn't gotten worse, but it hadn't gone away either. He didn't complain, just moved slower, smiled less, but not out of sadness, more like peace, as if something heavy had finally found the ground. One morning, she went to the market alone. He handed her a list, told her which store to avoid, gave her a folded bill from the drawer. "Take the mule," he said. She stared at him. "You sure?" He nodded. People stare anyway. Might as well give them something to talk about. She half smiled, half nodded. Rode into town before the sun got too high. No one stopped her. Some folks looked, some whispered, but most kept to themselves. The man at the feed store asked her name. She answered, clear, calm, then paid and left. By the time she got back, Elijah was waiting on the porch with 2 cups of coffee. "I made it too strong," he said. She took the cup. "Tastes fine." That evening, the wind shifted. You could smell change before it arrived, like dry sage and dust that hadn't moved in years. She sat outside, hair braided back, hands in her lap. He came out after a while carrying a blanket. Laid it across her shoulders, sat beside her. Neither spoke for a long time. Finally, he asked, "If someone showed up tomorrow, asked you to go with them, would you?" She looked at the sky, then at him. "No." He nodded once, not surprised. "Good," he said, then added after a pause, "because I wouldn't let you." The following week, the dog ran off after a rabbit and came back limping. She sat with it all night, dabbing the paw with warm cloth and herbs. Elijah stood in the doorway watching. "You know," he said, "you don't have to fix everything." She didn't look up. "I know." Still, she kept tending to the dog. Later, she whispered something to it. No one heard what, but the dog didn't limp again after that. They never celebrated anything, no birthdays, no holidays. But one morning she woke to find something on her chair, a small carved figure, wood, rough but familiar. It was her, or close enough, hair in a braid, shoulders square, standing. She picked it up and held it for a long time. Didn't say thank you. Didn't need to. Elijah walked past her later that day and tapped the table once with his knuckle. That was enough. Toward the end of fall, the tree behind the barn lost its leaves faster than the others. One morning, she went out and saw them all on the ground, golden and dry, like a blanket. She stood there, quiet, then knelt, gathered a few, pressed them flat, put them between the pages of a book she'd found in the old crate by the stove. She didn't read the book, just liked the way it felt, holding the leaves. Some things don't need to be used to be real. Elijah started writing things down, not much, just notes, short lines, lists, words that mattered. He never told her what they were, but he left them around the house, tucked into drawers, under cups, inside the lantern. She found one folded into her coat pocket. It said, "You stayed." She read it once, then folded it tighter, kept it. One cold night, the power blinked out again. The fire was low. She sat next to him on the floor, both wrapped in the same quilt. "I never thought I'd see this far," she said. "What do you mean?" "Days. Like this. Ones that don't feel borrowed." He nodded. "I thought I was done a long time ago." She looked at him. "You were just waiting." "For what?" She didn't answer, but he knew. They sat there until the fire burned low, and the silence didn't need to be filled. They never told anyone what they were. Not friends, not family, not themselves. They just lived, shared bread, fixed fences, cared for what broke. And in a world that once forgot them both, they remembered each other. Every single day.